Ladies and gentlemen, we're getting ready to start the expert panel on the north side of the grounds on the Funfest stage. We'll go ahead and have each person on our panel go ahead and introduce themselves rather quickly, and then we'll go through a series of questions for each people, then open it up to our audience. So I guess we can start to my immediate right.
Was that a hint for me to be brief and quiet? My name's Mike Yager. I'm chief cheerleader here at Mid-America Motorworks. I'm up here because they said I had to be. Next.
I'm Darby Milnor. I'm owner of Midwest AutoSavers in Cary, Illinois. You can stop in to the install dome and say hi to myself or my crew, and we're here at your service.
I'm Bob van Heyst from BBT in Belgium. As Mike says, he's a chief cheerleader. I'm the head honcho. We're a company mainly based on Volkswagen parts. We're very happy to have Mike as my customer. And I also am a vivid Volkswagen collector. Excuse my not native English tongue. I speak something completely different. Hartelijk welkom iedereen.
I'm Jason Willenbrock, and I'm here to help the guy to my right promote an upcoming film that I'll let him talk a little bit more about.
I'm Damon Ristau, and I'm a documentary filmmaker. Jason and I are both from Missoula, Montana. This is my second year coming back here. I directed a documentary called The Bus, and now we're working on the prequel to The Bus called The Bug.
Damon, we'll start with you since you are at the end. Easiest to pick on. Please tell us. Let that go by. Tell us a little bit about the 1960 Bug that you guys are currently restoring.
Right. It is this new film that is exploring the history and cultural significance of the Beetle and its impact on the world and humanity. Will be told using a restoration of a 1960 barn find Beetle that Jason discovered on the outskirts of Missoula, and it was completely disassembled. The previous owner passed away during the restoration process 25 years ago or so. So it had just been sitting ever since. His widow was pretty significantly attached to it and couldn't let it go until just recently. Jason found it and now is in the process of restoring it. Mid-America Motorworks has come on as a sponsor to help us get the project done and done right. Jason's doing the restoration. He has some experience, but they've been very helpful in the process. So the goal is to use that as a thread through the film, keep coming back to the restoration, so you get to see how that process works, and then ultimately, hopefully, if we get it done in time, take it back to the widow who sold it to him and let her go for a ride. And it's pretty emotional connection that I think is really an amazing story.
You know, Damon, I've seen projects similar to this where people will buy a barn find, an old car, and restore it and take it back to the original owner. And the emotion, the stories you hear about reuniting that person with the restored car is pretty cool. So hats off to you guys for the project. I'm sure it'll be fun, and I'm sure she'll be ecstatic when she sees the finished project.
I think so. She held on to it for more than 2 decades just because she was so attached and emotionally connected. So yeah, it's going to be a neat part of the story.
If I can say something, watch out. I did the same thing one time. I brought a car back to its original owner, barn find, really barn find, and the guy was mad at us. He thought we fooled him. He said, that cannot be my car. My car was a piece of junk. This is a nice car. My car was not a nice car. We restored it. No, it's impossible you restored my car. So he sent us away. I hope you get more success.
On that note, Jason, are you restoring the car as a daily driver with some modified parts, or are you going to take it back to completely original?
We're basically looking at it like this. We want to bring it back to driver status because it is something that we want to be able to use as promotion for the film. So everything that's going back to the vehicle is going to be back to stock with the help of Mid-America Motorworks. Kind of a nice part about the restoration, and I call it more of a resuscitation as opposed to a restoration, because it is going to be to driver status, and it won't have, everything will not be exactly perfect. It was disassembled because he was already starting the restoration process. So basically, we're picking up where he left off. So I'm kind of following his lead, if you will. And I kind of got a sense of what he was trying to do. And so that's kind of going to come through in the film. And you'll see on the final product in the movie that we're keeping it as true to factory specs as possible.
He's leaving the back door open. You heard him say it's going to be a resuscitation, not a restoration, just in case it's not perfect. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
That's called covering your
Yeah.
your Beetle.
On the note of restoration, Bob, how hard is it to find extremely rare parts, maybe for like a Schwimmenwagen or something along those lines?
Schwimwagen is okay because Schwimwagen parts have been remade. They even make the bodies completely in the form of Czechoslovakia. There's even 2 companies make the most of these parts. But there is certain parts, like for an example, a front hood for a split window Beetle 1950. Try to find one these days. It's pretty hard. And it's not only about money. I mean, you can spend whatever you want, or you can want to spend whatever you want, but you have to find one that's in good condition. Who takes split window Beetles apart? That's quite a while ago, isn't it?
Yes.
So I can say it's pretty hard. We're chasing parts all over the world, and I must say some parts are just impossible to find. Also, like for Type 34 GS, for an example, or even normal Karmann GS, some parts getting really difficult to find.
You know, Bob talked about parts that are hard to find. Walking through the swap meet this morning, and in the swap meet were 4 engine stands from the VW factory in Germany. When you drove in this morning, I don't know if you saw me waving at you. I was trying to get you to stop. We bought 4 engine stands. Did you see them out there by any chance?
How's the smile, huh?
Yeah.
I saw that big grin on
One,
his face.
one of them would look great in your collection.
I have
So-
a couple of them.
You never
But-
know. I mean, here in Effingham, Illinois, is 4
Yeah.
German. You know, it says Germany right on. It's a pretty cool product. So, you know, we're talking about hard to find parts. They show up in the most unbeknownst places that you could ever imagine. Darby and I were talking about a 48 yesterday, or a 49, and I'd mentioned it to you and said, you know, to me, it's the type of car that you walk around and you see an early part, you buy it, and someday you may have the car to put it on. But just interesting, this stuff passes through and goes beyond, it goes under the radar scope for a lot of people.
And you have to recognize the part as well.
Yeah, that's
You
the
have to
part-
know a lot about parts to score a good part.
Yeah.
We were at an all-car show several years ago, walking through the swap meet, and found an early 25 horsepower intake manifold laying that the guy had no idea what kind of car it was for. It was in a bunch of Chevy and Dodge parts just laying on the ground.
So what you do with it?
I bought it, sold it to Bob at a fantastic profit.
It reminds me in the early days in Germany there used to be, there's still a big swap meet called Veterama Mannheim. It's in Mannheim, it's near Ludwigshafen. And they have like a car section and a motorcycle section, and you have to walk all the paths because in the motorcycle section there was always Volkswagen parts in between the motorcycle parts, and you could buy hard taillights sometimes for like 5 D-marks, which is like $2.50 because the guy simply didn't know what it was. And then you put them on eBay in 2000 when eBay just came to Europe, and you scored so much money. It was fun. It was not for the profit, but it was just fun to do, picking up something for nothing and try to make as much as possible out of it.
Darby, question for you. Entering the Volkswagen world as a first-time owner, what advice do you have?
That's a real interesting question. Advice that I have for someone just entering the Volkswagen world is this is a vehicle that you need to enjoy. You shouldn't just tuck it away and park it in the garage. It's also a vehicle that needs some mechanical, some routine maintenance. It isn't a car you can just get into and drive. And I personally feel that you know, a person buying a Volkswagen for the first time and getting a decent repair manual and learning to sit down with it and read the manual and play around with this vehicle is just fantastic. And my advice is drive your car, enjoy it, fix what you can, find someone reliable to fix that you can't, and don't leave it in the garage. should be out on the street for people to enjoy.
You know, I'm a strong supporter of clubs, and my feeling is if you're a first-time air-cooled buyer, find a club, join a club, because there's a lot of guys and gals in clubs that have knowledge, share stories, extra parts.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. Mike, walk us through a few of the new website changes. I think a lot of you have noticed that we've launched our new website, a lot of new interactive features, so kind of walk us through that process.
I was just showing Darby the new sheet metal section, and that's just coming on board this weekend, where we'll actually take a line drawing of the car and orient the piece of sheet metal exactly where it should be on the car, and we've endeavored to measure each piece of sheet metal and put the measurements on there, so when someone buys the part, they know how much of that patch panel that they're going to get. And we even struggle. We know what the parts are when we're holding them. Then sometimes when you look at them on a photograph and then you read the description, it's difficult to really, an outer, upper, lower, inner. There is such a part as that. And those of us who touch parts each day, you know that it's upper, outer, could be lower, could be inner, and that's easy to follow. But we've made each part that goes on the exterior of the car in a solid color, and if it goes to an inner panel, it's the same color, but it's crosshatched, so you can tell by looking at a photograph if it's an outer panel or an inner panel, and if it fits both inner and outer, like a front apron, then the portion that receives body color paint. There was a crash behind me. I thought someone passed out here. That receives the exterior paint colors in a solid color, and that's say like a liner panel on the apron that goes in the trunk area. It's crosshatched, so makes it a lot easier. And Darby said, "Man, that really, guys like you and I, we know where it goes." And I said, "Well, you take the credit. I don't always know how the orientation in the car, but no, it's much easier." Plus, our new search is about 80% up, and you just put in a word that you think you're looking for, and we're going to deliver some parts. So much enhanced just in the last 10 days to 2 weeks as we've changed the site. And we've heard a lot of feedback from customers, and we know it, we're working on it. So we're almost there.
Perfect. Damon, talk about the support that you're getting from Volkswagen Germany for your project.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised that Volkswagen of Germany was open to helping me with the bus movie to start with. It was actually Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles in Hanover that was very receptive, and they actually brought me over with open arms and let me dig through their archive of footage, and it was such a score. I had first contacted Volkswagen of the United States, and they didn't even respond. I tried 30 different people in the marketing department, and they could care less. It wasn't until I was finished with the bus movie that they contacted me, and it was actually an attorney that contacted me, and I think they were looking for a lawsuit, but I showed them my contract with VW Commercial Vehicles, and they backed off quickly. But the bug movie is proving to be a little bit more difficult because it is not commercial vehicles in Hanover. It's Volkswagen of Wolfsburg, which is a completely separate set of people I'm having to deal with. But they've made the introduction and again have allowed me. I leave on Thursday to go for 2 weeks and hopefully come up with some good archival materials, shoot in the factory, and yeah, very excited about that. The Germans have been awesome.
Good deal. And on that note, Jason, restoring the Beetle, what's been the most difficult part so far?
The most difficult part, I'd say, is not enough time to really do it the way I really want to do it. Obviously, we want to have a deadline for this movie, so I don't think Damon would allow me to go on for 3 years and still not have a final product. So that's been a bit of frustration. And, I'm a small business owner. I got to plug that, poshchocolate.com. And I have a 2-year-old, so timing is difficult. My projects in the past, I've been able to spend a lot more time with them, and it would take a year or more to do a project right. So this is something we're kind of under the gun. We want to get it done in a couple months, so that could be a little bit frustrating.
and the fact that we have a micro budget, so Jason's not getting paid for this. He's doing it out of the kindness of his heart, and in hopes of being a movie star.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly my ambition here. It is for the love of the vehicle, and you all know if you're here today and you're at this show, you obviously have a soft spot for these vehicles, and that's really what this movie's all about. It's kind of bringing everyone together and the vast array of what the Beetle and the bus has done for the community.
Plus, haven't you had to learn something like how to work on a Beetle versus a bus?
It's a different beast in a lot of ways, but there's so many similarities. The nice thing about the Volkswagens in general, for anyone who's a DIY kind of person, is something you really can do yourself. And we're so fortunate to have companies like Mid-America Motorworks and other various vendors out there that create parts that are non-existent to help keep these aging vehicles on the road. And that's a blessing. And, it's funny, you go to a lot of the online forums and hear everyone and complaining about, sorry, not to say that, but complaining about the lack of parts and whatnot, but they don't realize that there's such a good, strong community behind it on Mid-America's part and other vendors that are keeping the passion alive for all of us, and that's a huge part of it.
Bob, there's obviously great events like our own Funfest, and if you head west to California, there's so many great events out there and across the U.S. If a U.S. citizen asks, hey, Bob, I'm going to Europe, what are the best shows to attend in Europe?
In Europe, it depends what you want to do. If you like to go for a swap meet, there is the 1st of May in Hanover. This is the best cool swap meet for Volkswagen parts in the world. That's amazing. It's kind of American thing, like it starts like 7 o'clock in the morning and everybody drives home around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, showing up like close to 3,000 cars. It's amazing. Another show, if you like racing Volkswagens, European Bug-In in Chimay in Belgium is really the place where all these old gasser cars went from the West Coast and all over the United States. All the famous cars are like Belgium, France, UK. They bring a lot of that cars out. It's nice to see when you were reading Hot VWs in the 70s, for an example. It's nice to go to that show. There's a lot of Americans coming over, Japanese people, everything. Another show in Holland, there is a couple of very good party shows. We have one party show, a party show when there is wild parties at night. We have at the racetrack of Spa-Francorchamps. It's a very nice show, between 1,500, 2,500 cars. It's a very amazing show. And if I can add, I was last New Year, I was in Indonesia. You should suspect everything in Indonesia except a lot of Volkswagens. I went to the Yogyakarta Volkswagen Festival. They invited me. 2,500 cars, and the level of restoration was amazing high. Unbelievable how people love their Volkswagens. Most of them, they even have a driver to drive themselves in their Volkswagen. That's how crazy they go. It's really worth visiting. It's once every 2 years, and it's always around New Year, which gives you a good excuse to go to somewhere where it's a little bit warmer than in the Midwest or in Western Europe. It was an amazing show. We enjoyed it fully.
Bob, when we were over visiting you, were you telling us about people sending their car up to Poland, or was it Indonesia to have them restored?
No, you cannot send cars to Indonesia. They don't allow import cars. But we do restore cars a lot in Poland, Bulgaria, Czechia, Hungary, Romania, all the former Eastern European countries because of the labor. To give you an idea, normal labor cost, actually cheap labor cost is 35 euros, like roughly $50 an hour where we live. In Bulgaria, it's 3 euros an hour, which is a huge difference.
Are they pretty quick at doing that?
They're getting there. They're getting to the point. A couple of years ago, it was quite difficult, but now they're getting better and better organized, except in Poland. They hire people, they learn what they have to learn, and then they run to the West to get big salaries.
Yeah, I'm putting a little pressure on Jason down there at 3 euros an hour and getting them processed, restored quickly. Damon, maybe we need to send that Beetle over to Poland.
That sounds about right. Bob, did they manufacture Beetles in Indonesia, or the knockdown kits?
I think they used to have knockdown kits, but there is many There
Are
is
there?
many. You could buy, you still can buy new cars. There's a lot of brand new cars out there, but you cannot import, like, same for China, Thailand, Malaysia, all these countries. You cannot import used cars because there is a lot of people living in poverty, and they would import like $300 cars. And I think the government is a little bit afraid that that's going to happen when they open the borders. They're going to have something like a junkyard. So you cannot simply not import cars, but used cars, but you can import new cars.
Do you still see the Beetle on the roads there, or has it become a collector's item, or is it still super practical rig like you go to
Not
Mexico
really
or
on the
South
roads.
America?
On the roads, you don't see them that many. You see a lot of bay window buses on the road still.
Perfect. Kind of change gears here. Darby, if you've got someone interested in looking for a performance upgrade, would you recommend a single or twin carb?
You know, the first question we ask someone is what kind of driving they're going to do. We find in most cases a dual carbureted engine obviously performs better. However, a lot of our clientele are older folks just looking for a little better performance, and they don't want to deal with the nuances of the dual carburetors, the adjustments and such, and they'll put a single carburetor on. So it's really kind of you know, we sit down and do a Q&A not only with carbs but with most of the work we do, and we try to put the customer into the right part for their car and their driving.
Mike, talk us through the addition of Type 3 onto the new website.
Well, you know, one of the things that we gain at Volkswagen Funfest is the opportunity to interface and talk with our customers. And I keep hearing that, you know, you guys don't offer enough Type 3 products. So over the last 6 to 8 months, Richard Davies, the handsome young man standing in front of me, has done a lot of work on identifying the air-cooled parts, the mechanical parts that are applicable to the Type 3. And we've probably added in the neighborhood of 1,200 unique Type 3 parts to our line, from carpeting to sheet metal to a lot of interior trim pieces. So Type 3 is certainly becoming a very important part to Mid-America Motorworks VW line. So a lot of work has been done, and that's due to feedback from customers. And I had a customer up a while ago saying, how come you don't have a spa on the grounds for the ladies? After we're tired of walking around and looking at cars and okaying the budget to buy parts, we would like to have some body work done on us. So I said, well, you know, at our Corvette Fun Fest, we do that, and this is the first time I've had a request for it at VW, so I bet you'll see something like that here next year. How we get better, whether it's the show or in our catalog, is requests from customers. So I heard that one loud and clear.
How are you going to get Richard out of it?
Not everybody has the whale's humor you do, Richard.
Guys, we'll ask a couple more questions, then we'll open it up, and then we'll wrap it up from there. But this is a question for all of you. If money doesn't matter, what Volkswagen would be in your garage?
Well, that's an easy one for me. A 23-window bus. It's probably sitting out here. The one from, is it Naperville, did I notice? We were looking at it. Is it a 21? Okay. Be a bus for me with a sliding top.
I think after having hundreds of Volkswagens over the years, I need to have a single cab pickup.
That'd be my second one. Anybody else want to try one here? Bob?
I'm greedy. It depends my mood, what I want to drive, and the weather, of course. I would
Perfect
like
weather, Bob, so just think along those lines.
But I like a lot Westphalia buses. I understand Mike wants 21 or 23 window deluxe. What's fun, but in a Westphalia you can sleep, and it's so nice with all the wood inside. I think that's actually one of my favorite Volkswagens that I can look long time at.
I kind of agree with Bob on those lines. I'm a camping kind of guy, and I just love the classic camper. So an early camping box would probably be high on my list. The only one that I really regret getting rid of is my Synchro Westphalia, so maybe I could change directions on that as well.
That's what I was going to say. Is the Synchro Westphalia Wolfsburg Weekender would be my choice. I'm looking for one if anyone has one.
There's one straight in front of us. The last row of the swap meet. You just have to talk the guys into selling it.
All right, last question for you guys. We see in the Corvette world a lot of the unique models that maybe 5-10 years ago were selling at a certain price. Those models are now bringing 10, 12 times those prices. What do you guys think about Volkswagens really starting to hit, we'll call it the upper echelon of the market? If you look at Pebble Beach weekend, or the Monterey weekend, and then you look at the auctions, you're starting to see a lot of buses and higher-end Beetles, buses selling for over $120,000. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for the market?
It depends if you have one or not.
If you have one and you've got
If you have a couple laying around, I mean, you don't care they go up, do you? If you want to buy one and you're saving up and you're always running behind the price, I mean, you're
it just
getting...
motivates you to buy quicker. But it thrills me when I see the buses crossing the blocks at Barrett Jackson, at RM, the prices they bring and the comments. I mean, the buses have gotten extremely strong, and the Beetle convertible always follows right along. But interesting to see the VW stepping up on a, it's always been a world-class car in one fashion. Now on the collector car market and the auction market, the car has gotten a lot of attention, in my opinion.
I think the Deluxes, they're bottoming out now, 120,000. I think that's about what they're going to be for a while.
You say the bottom side of the market.
The top side of the market. I mean, like, yeah, they're
Okay.
bottoming out. No, they're bottoming out against the top. Excuse my
Okay.
language. A car that I see raising in price in the next couple of years is a Ghia. Why? Because it's Italian design and German engineering. Where can you go wrong with a car like that? I mean, it's the best of both worlds. And you can drive it. It's cheap to maintain. You can drive classic rallies. You can enjoy. And it's a beautiful car to look at. I think that has definitely some margin to go up in the next couple of years.
I watched a Beetle convertible come in this morning, parked on the south lot, and I watched people just stop and turn and watch that Ghia go by. I thought, oh, there's support for it because it catches attention.
Great. Anyone in the audience have any questions?
The question was, what are we doing seeing Volkswagens in the salvage yards, whether it's just a general salvage yard or a big Volkswagen salvage yard, to recycle the parts, perhaps look at some of the cars for restoration. And my first thought of that was one of my older brothers that got me involved in the Volkswagen side of this business had about 1,000 buses and sedans, Ghias, I mean, you name it, about 1,000 in his salvage yard. And the city that grew out to him came after him with eminent domain, and they crushed them all. And he got several days to get them out of there, and he didn't get very many out. So that is a threat, because there's kind of a backwards way of answering your question, but there was over, I'm guessing, 900 to 950 that got crushed. And when I have a photo journal, about 2,500 photographs of his salvage yard, and I just want to puke, I guess is the best way to put it, when I think of the cars that they came in there and just crushed. And when I look around here at some of the cars for sale in the swap meet area, going, he had better cars than that in his salvage yard. And unfortunately, we just couldn't get there quick enough to save them all. And it does boil down to economics. Try to move 1,000 cars out of a salvage yard, and it's a mess. So I'm not answering your question. I'm more on the same side of the street. You do see collections of 5, 10, 15, 20, and you go, they're going to waste. Why can't someone get those and at least stabilize them? I don't know.
20 years ago, I used to go to a salvage yard in Spokane, Washington that was just loaded with air-cooled VWs. And as a kid, it was heaven digging through there and pulling parts. And now, whenever I pass that salvage yard, I call them to see if they have any. And normally they don't have any, or if they have one, it's already just been completely cannibalized. So I don't see them as much as I used to in the salvage yard.
I also think the hobby, the drive of the enthusiasts, the value of the cars, they are dragging some of those out one at a time. But I think your question is more looking at the whole group. Is there, you know?
I remember the days when they stack up Beetle 5 high in the junkyards, and it was fun to go up. I remember a very funny story of a friend of mine was on the top of such a mountain of Volkswagens, and all on the top was a low light Gia. He crumbled in the Gia and he saw the clock. He liked the clock, but he didn't have anything to screw. The only thing, or to screw it out, he could not go in the trunk to loosen. So the only thing he had was a hammer and a screwdriver. He hammered the clock out of the dashboard, and he still has the clock with a piece of metal around it. It's beautiful. It's crazy. These were the days. I mean, I did buy a shop in Texas. The guy was in business since 1964. We worked 8 people, 3 weeks in a row, day and night, to empty and to ship everything. Of course, a lot of things is junk. It's like, from a guy that never threw something away, you have to imagine that there's only like 20% of parts you can use, and all the rest you have to trash or you have to scrap. It's a hard work. You need a lot of space, you need a lot of cash, and you need a lot of networking that you can sell a lot of things straight away.
Well, you said space. I think that's always the key thing. I think this young man's looking around at all these fields that we own here and is envisioning lots of Beetles out there.
Yeah, you can make a fun junk. Plus, instead of Funfest fun junk, so you can make a fun junkyard. Yeah.
Okay.